Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast, where we get into the episodes of the Twilight Zone and beyond. Joining me today is a fellow podcaster from Mission Log, the Orville. Hello, Mike Richards.
Hello, Matthew. Thank you so much for having me on, man. This is really exciting to be a guest on your show.
Thanks. Okay, glad to get the accolades because we're still running a Mickey Mouse operation around here. But
That's okay. It's this is your show, and you asked me to be on here, and I'm excited to do it. And I love the Twilight Zone, so it's just everything's pointing in the right direction, man. Like the magic 8 ball, all signs point to yes.
All right. So today's episode is about smack dab in the middle of season one, maybe a little bit before that, but it's what you need. So I'm gonna slap out a little bit of trivia on that. One moment. While the teleplay is by Rod Serling, the story was by Lewis Paget, which was a pseudonym for the husband-wife writing team of Harry Kuttner and C.L. Moore. The story had already been filmed as an episode of Tales of Tomorrow, which is a bonus feature on the Twilight Zone Blu-rays. Steve Cochran played Fred Renard and was a character actor who played alongside Danny Kaye, Groucho Marx, and Joan Crawford. He eventually slipped out of the studio system and did a fair amount of TV before dying in 1965 at only 48 years of age. Ernest Truex sells you what you need, and he had a slow burn into film starting from the silent age. By the 50s, he was the go-to man for your elderly TV character, including the later Twilight Zone episode, Kick the Can. His son Philip stepped into the role of Harry in Alfred Hitchcock's The Trouble with Harry, but Harry got off screen quite quickly, and the son did not really continue with the acting biz. So, Mike, I'm going to task you a bit now, and as I tell people, you could do your Rod Serling impression. I've had someone do Goofy, but I have to retype this because I started a new meeting, didn't I? One moment on that. There's an edit for myself. Okay, here it comes. I had it set up, but I started a new meeting, so it ain't there anymore.
Oh, I see what you got.
Okay, if you could give me your reading on this one, please.
All right, no sound effects, but I will do my best. You're looking at Mr. Fred Renard, who carries on his shoulder a chip the size of the national debt. This is a sour man, a friendless man, a lonely man, a grasping, compulsive, nervous man. This is a man who has lived 36 undistinguished, meaningless, pointless, failure-laden years, and who at this moment looks for an escape, any way, anything, anybody to get out of the rut. And this little old man is just what Mr. Renard is waiting for.
All right, nice reading there.
Well, thank you, sir.
This one kind of gets me. We're just telegraphing how horrible this guy is straight from the start. It's like, please don't have any sympathy for this guy whatsoever.
It's like they tell us and then they show us and then they keep showing us. You're right. It is telegraphed in the prologue.
Yeah, like which is fun. I mean, this is a bit of a morality play in the end. I don't think I said this in my bit of trivia, but the actor Steve Cochran basically was a comedic actor, and it's often pointed out.
He kind of reminds me of that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. He reminds me of that. He kind of has that. I'm drawing a blank on his name. The guy from the Burn Notice who showed up in the original Spider-Man trilogy with Tobey Maguire. The Spider-Man, that's the best you got, or the human spider, that's the best you got. That stinks. That guy. I can't. Bruce Campbell, is that his name?
Yeah, that's right.
He kind of has that quality to him.
Yeah, a little bit of that, and I guess there is the idea that comedic actors tend to do the best menace.
I can see that.
And you go back, Jack Nicholson playing I guess he's not very comedic actor, but he's done a lot of comedies, and I think he brought that to his Joker somewhat, and it's
he did, and some of the more menacing Robin Williams roles that he did, like in Insomnia and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I mentioned to you I do a sci-fi film podcast, and we just by accident did like two depressing Robin Williams films like in a row. So that's just how things work out sometime.
Sure is.
But the other thing I keep noticing as I move through the show is the men in the Twilight Zone seem to always be 35 to 37. This guy's 36. The ladies all tend to be 26 or 27. So kind of an interesting convention there.
It is. And I just kind of think if that's sort of the funny thing is when I met my wife, I was like in that age group. I was 33 and she was sort of in that mid-20s group also. So I don't know if that's maybe sort of the sweet spot for maybe finding yourself. Maybe it's kind of the demographics that that Rod Serling was trying to reach. I'm not really sure. It just kind of seems like maybe it's that age right before you start to settle in and find yourself. And I think women do mature faster than guys do, at least here in the United States. I'm not sure about other places.
Yeah, my wife's actually about 9 months older than me. But that's good because whenever it's my birthday, like, I turn 43 next year. And when that happens, I'm like, wait, wasn't I already 43? So it's
I
like
do the same thing.
Yeah.
I start getting spooled up for my next age change about 6 months out. So by the time it happens, I'm like, wait, aren't I? Oh no.
Yeah.
Then it's like a free one.
Yeah. I've been thinking of myself as that age since June. So I'm like, wait a minute. I can actually notch that number one down. I'm still a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy age. So that's my 42. I guess we'll do a few observations on the man who has what you need. Did they actually give him a name? I don't believe so.
I don't think they did. The intro I read said just this old man, and I just did not ever catch a name from him. Mr. Renard is Fred Renard. I picked that up somewhere, maybe just in the credits or somewhere.
Yeah. I think that's the only place they tell you. So I guess we can literally call him like little old man, but something that actually another guest mentioned when we were doing Perchance to Dream is he noticed when he's giving the scissors to Fred, he's giving it in a like kind of not aggressive, but it's like blade first, like he's kind of trying to protect himself even at that point, which is like some noticeable foreshadowing.
I saw that the way he grabbed him sort of from behind him and brought him kind of clenched in his fist up toward him. I don't think it was offensive, but I think I think the old man was ready for anything.
Yeah, because it seems he generally gets to go around being sort of the Santa Claus to everyone. So as befits us recording this around Christmas, it'll be released later. But yeah, I guess this is when the guy that's getting coal for his holiday comes attacking Santa Claus with a pair of scissors. So.
And also, the old man it seemed like he may have been sort of burned or maybe abused his power at one time too. I picked up on this was in the scene where where Fred was extorting him, and I think he got the fountain pen off of it, and he said, "Can you read the future? What do you have? Do you have a gift? Do you have powers? What do you have?" And he said, I have a very limited power. I use it very sparingly because I have to use it sparingly. So I wonder if one point, maybe in the past, he tried to use it less sparingly and bad things happened. But it did seem like he was a guy that took his great power with great responsibility and was able to kind of find the sweet spot, how to help people without going overboard was the idea. But I'm interested in a prequel show on this to see how he found out about this and maybe how he learned to hit the right level of helping people out.
Actually, I could probably refer you to another episode with a different actor. Is that in this season? It is. Excuse me. I'm forgetting the name of the episode. It's in a later season, but where it does have a man who can basically affect I guess a little telekinesis, right? So, the guy drags him out to Vegas and he's like, oh, my power doesn't work anymore, which was a lie. He just didn't want to be involved in it anymore. So,
Right.
there is an episode that sort of plays out like the prequel to this in a way.
Oh, that
Um,
sounds good. Yeah, and I have, man, I think I have seen every episode of the Sci-Fi, with probably the exception of some of the hour-long ones, because they weren't really normally working their way into syndication the same way the other ones did. But I think every night on my home channel 11 in New York was, man, I want to say it was some iteration of the Honeymooners, Twilight Zone, and Star Trek the original series, kind of back to back to back. And
right.
that was nightly viewing for me from, whatever age I could get away with staying up that late until probably I moved on with my life, which was, had to be a good solid 10, 15 years of, ingesting that daily.
I did just remember that's season two's the prime mover, I believe. So,
Okay. I'll look
it,
forward to that. Your timing was perfect because I was about just coming up on this episode. I had just finished watching The Lonely and was coming up on this episode. So this is perfect timing to jump in and do this.
well, there we go. One of the big things in this whole episode is the concept of synchronicities.
Yes.
A little metaphysical. That's one of the reasons I like doing the Twilight Zone. I'm an ardent Trekkie, but you don't get too metaphysical in Trek, whereas the Twilight Zone can get as metaphysical and weird as they want. The idea that maybe this guy just really notices synchronicities. Like, he doesn't tell the future. He knows what you need.
It really was amazing. I mean, as soon as he walked in and we saw Arlene Martell, that's who I noticed initially, who played a role in Star Trek, the original series, and was also, she'll show up again in the episode 22 in a later season of the Twilight Zone, or at least a later episode of the Twilight Zone. But she was the woman who wanted matches, but he said, you'll need this cleaning solution. And there was the baseball player there who was down on his luck and was given an opportunity in Scranton, and he gave him a bus ticket to Scranton, I believe was
Right.
was what he needed. So, was it reading the future? Is it just summing people up at the time? Is it just maybe a gift that he has of being able to just kind of read what's going on in the present and connect the dots between, different people and different paths that they have, and sort of give them what they need for those paths to cross? But, it looked like there was a pretty happy couple with maybe a bright future coaching minor league baseball in Scranton, Pennsylvania, walking out the door on the end of night one.
Yeah, again, that's why he's using his power sparingly, because some people, what they need is like our not protagonist, our the main man in this episode, Fred. Like, what he needs is probably not good for most people, because what he needs is to con and scan people. At least that's what he thinks he needs.
And he needed everything. He didn't just need a nudge. He didn't need the, just have a slightly cleaner suit to go meet the general manager, or be able to afford a bus ticket, which, being down on his luck as long as he had been, I don't think he would have been able to take advantage of that opportunity. But Mr. Renard wanted everything. Like, he wanted to basically, like you said, steal and scam and take advantage of the situation, and not just use it as an opportunity to get his life back on track. And I think that's kind of a real big difference between what he was trying to use, what he needed or what he thought he needed, versus what the intention was to give folks what they need.
Yeah, wanting more than you have, I guess. It shows Renard as being relatively down on his luck as well. Like, he's not in a good position, but mythology or whatever always has your King Midas, or Solomon, who really has everything, but they need a little more, right? Which is the tragic flaw for them and Renard in this episode.
Yeah. And how much is enough? I mean, he said, all right, 1 million, 2 million, before he was interrupted at the door with the guy bringing him tomorrow's paper. So clearly not enough. 1 million wouldn't be enough. 2 million wouldn't be enough. This was only going to end badly, I think, once it got started, because of the greed. And not just, again, I think it's I think there's a lot in the title of, um, need versus want, what you need versus what you think you should selfishly be entitled to.
Right. And of course,
That'd be a long episode name.
yeah. It's still shorter than that Fiona Apple album, I believe, which is like a full paragraph. With the pawn. Let's see if you can remember the first three words, not the whole title.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so the twist of the episode is, of course, what the nice old man needs, as like, because Fred's gotten enough of what he needed. So a bit of a morality tale here. I wouldn't necessarily say this is one of the best Twilight Zone episodes. It's certainly a fine average, I think, but the twist is a little bit. It's fun, I guess.
It's interesting. I mean, it was what I found noteworthy was when the old man said, "When I looked in your eye the first time I saw you, I saw death. I saw my death." And ultimately he gave Renard the shoes in order to save his own life. And I kind of wonder, if he saw death in this guy's eyes on night one in the diner, just give him the fountain pen right then and there, man. He can try to gnaw through his scarf with a fountain pen while he's going up the elevator.
Yeah.
that problem would have been taken care of. But I guess he thought maybe give him a chance to live and learn.
I wonder how common elevator accidents were back then when they had the the steel grate sort of thing.
It might have been. I know what I thought of when I saw it was Edna Mode in the Incredibles, when she was like, "No capes,
no ties." Yeah, I can live by that.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Yeah, I got a tie to work.
Yeah, in fact, there's in my profession, there's a lot of guys that wear clip-on ties just so that they their justification is, and I don't know that's necessarily true, that if they're trying to evacuate from an aircraft, that they might not it would just come off instead of choking them.
Okay, well that makes sense, because I'm sitting here thinking I teach kids, they would notice the little ones would notice very quickly, so you don't want little kids making fun of you for wearing a clip-on.
No.
Japanese. So yeah, I was thinking of the synchronicities that hit me sort of while watching this. Of course, this came right as everything froze around me, so watching him slip in the end, I'm thinking, I had to check the sole of my shoes the next day, because and I've been avoiding my own black ice the past few days.
I bet. Yeah, it things start to freeze up. I live in the, kind of the central Midwest, central Indiana. So we get some, definitely some icy winters, and I got to be careful going out there also. But I could definitely relate to trying to run around on a street on an icy night in dress shoes. That was definitely a relatable moment for me.
Yeah, in Japan sometimes, like maybe not the past year or two, but you go out on January nights, especially in the city, and see women still trying to dress fashionably, and it's like, man, that looks cold, because it's like in Fahrenheit, what, I don't know, like 25 or something, not the worst, but certainly not good for a dress in high heels.
Yeah, they are tough, a lot tougher than I am. I would be bundled up in a coat and a scarf that might get me killed in an elevator if I didn't have a pair of scissors handy.
I kind of noticed the music for this one too, in the way of a synchronicity, I suppose. I just listened to a podcast about a Bella Bartok piece, and then the music in here kind of made me think of something like that, or Planet of the Apes, the original movie music sort of had a bit of that feel to some of the music in here, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I noticed sort of that ominous tone, reminiscent of the Planet of the Apes. I also couldn't help but notice that when the old man would kind of offer, open up his briefcase and offer something to either the woman who was looking for matches or the guy that he offered the bus ticket to, that there was, I don't even know if I can really call it music as much of a sound effect. And it reminded me of that same kind of sound effect used when the Telosians in the original Star Trek episodes, either the cage or the menagerie, cast their illusions on people. It sort of had that sort of shimmering sound effect that was very similar to what was used here.
Yeah, and I heard that sort of explained in the Bar Talk podcast as being his like kind of nature night music. That's what he kind of invented those techniques. So he'd take folk recordings. He'd like take a very early recording device in the first half of the 20th century, go to like Bulgaria and just record people on street corners, go home and then try and like classically write it all out, like with the rhythms intact, everything intact. And that's sort of where that kind of percussive sound ends up coming from in the end.
Oh, that sounds brilliant.
Yeah, that's why he's considered a brilliant composer. Not that Bartok did this music, but they were using the same kind of ideas. And Jerry Goldsmith, again, Planet of the Apes, really ran with that. Even with Star Trek: The Motion Picture, thinking of like the V'ger noises and things, sort of along that line as well.
Yes, and also the Klingon music that was used again in Next Gen and for decades after that, kind of had that sort of rhythmic, ominous tone to it that we saw in heard in Planet of the Apes, and very much like this episode in the kind of the darker moments.
Just having a little look at my notes here to see if there was something I missed. I do have a few questions I like to get into when I do these. So let's see. The shoes went to waste. He only wore them for about a minute before he died. I bought shoes once when I was I'd been drinking, and then I bought shoes and ended up with shoes 2 sizes too large for a while. So that wasn't so
for
great.
a while. Did you grow into them?
Yeah. Well, no, it was just they're Skechers sneakers, so it was just like going around in like little boats for a while. So
yeah.
I was working at a desk at the time, so I guess I didn't need to wear the shoes much. Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Scranton sucks. Scranton sucks, Ray.
Yeah, that's my note. Although I did find a first pressing of David Bowie's Low there once on vinyl, so that was kind of cool. That's certainly a plus. Oh, the other one is with the old dude. I feel bad that I just keep calling him the old dude, but the other metaphysical concept that came to mind a little bit was the bodhisattva. That he's already transcended, so he's just there to help people. You don't advertise it.
So great point. I mean, he mentioned, I think when he was being accosted in his own apartment, which I don't know how Fred got his way. I don't know how he knew where he lived. I don't know how he got in his apartment, but he was just there sitting in the seat, which was scary. But the old man was like, I have what I need. Like, I don't need anything in here. I have what I need. And that fits very much into what you're saying. And when you do have what you need, then it's time to start helping other people out, right? We kind of start off in our lives and our careers, and we're just kind of trying to survive as frail little babies, and then you get educated and you get a job and you get a career and you kind of get your foothold, and then you get that, hopefully, that security that comes with it, and now it's time to help other people achieve their goals and put their better interests ahead of your own, and kind of be that servant leader, teacher, mentor, fill that kind of role. And like you said, exactly right. So great point for bringing that up. And I think that's, hopefully where the old man is at this point. Like, he's got what he wants. He's satisfied with what he has. Maybe it's not much by some standards, maybe by Fred Renard standards, it's not much, but he has what he wants. He's satisfied. And, his big goal, his big need is to help other people and give them what they need. And it's Mr. Renard just does not understand that. And I don't think he ever will. Well, I know he never will, because he's dead now. So
and it's worth knowing that the old man, when that happens, you said, why didn't he just give him a fountain pen in the first place? Well, he seems like he was really trying to avoid this moment. Like, he really didn't want to off this dude, but it just, his own death was impending, and it's like at that point it's him or me, I guess.
And I think that's true, whether or not excuse me. I think that's true. Whether we're talking about like the practicality of day after day by day living, or something to the Twilight Zone, is that if you see a situation like this that possibly could go wrong, I think the responsibility to take is to try to make sure it goes right first. And rather than just kind of cut this guy loose, knowing that he's probably going to die that night if he doesn't have a pair of scissors, he at least gave him the chance, and he gave him a chance to get through that part of his life and move on. So you're exactly right. That I think it would have been very old man like, who I feel like I know very well now. I think it would have been very old man like to just sort of relegate this guy to death on day one just because of a look in his eyes.
Right. And so I actually, we do like this little old man who I guess doesn't get a name quite well in the end. He seems quite almost not despondent, but he's certainly feeling a tinge of sadness that his giving the dude shoes just led to his death. So, because we should mention he just gave the guy a pair of shoes. You cannot,
But that's what was interesting though too, is that the guy said, "Okay, shoes. What do I do? Do I walk somewhere?" Like he didn't have to go running. That was all brought about by his own sort of greed and desire and lust for more stuff. He could have said, "Cool, these are great shoes. Thanks. They're a little tight. You know what? I'll take them home. Maybe I'll stretch them out. Maybe I'll wear the shoes that I have for now." I mean, so the decisions that Renard made after getting the shoes were his own, and very much a reflection on just what kind of guy he was.
Yeah, again, I teach small children. Some, when they're starting to climb a bunch of chairs, like, you need to be off of that. And then when the chairs fall, they start crying. It's like, yeah, that's because you climbed on the chairs that are just laying against the wall.
Yep.
But that's how these things work, man.
Life is choices. Choices have consequences.
So I have a few questions I like to put on these episodes.
All right. And I am coming at you as a newbie, completely caught unawares, as some of us like to say.
Yeah. I don't really go with the how does it hold up, because these are, even when the episode's a little derpier, it's usually quite well made. So I don't feel like that's the right question. What I do ask is, in this episode, who exactly went into the Twilight Zone?
I think Mr. Renard, excuse me, Fred Renard went into the Twilight Zone.
Certainly for him. And then it brings me to the old man. Is he like of the Twilight Zone? Did he go in? I mean, he's involved for certain, and he has agency. He knows what's going on.
He sure is. So I think he was, and I'll say that he was the Twilight Zone, or he was the environment that that Fred Renard ended up going into. So let's sort of maybe try to draw maybe a different analogy of somebody who's, maybe hustling their whole life, maybe working hard their whole life. And just like Rod certainly said in the prologue, he's had a whole life of friendless, lonely, grasping, compulsive. He's nervous, and it's just not going well. And then all of a sudden this opportunity shows up. Okay. Not the old man, but just say you or I or somebody else who's worked hard for that one big break. And that's what the old man kind of represents, is this big break. So do you take it and make the best of it? Do you take it and go back for more? Do you take it and try to strangle the goose that laid the golden egg? That's kind of how Fred Renard reacted to this opportunity, or these opportunities that he was given with the scissors and the fountain pen. So he certainly could have taken his winnings and moved on with his life and kind of started anew, but he didn't. And he got greedy and he went back for more, and it ended up getting him killed. So that to me is the Fred Renard sort of went into the Twilight Zone, and the old man was the kind of the environment that he found himself in.
Yeah, the other two people that are on my mind would be the baseball player and his new lady friend. Maybe they just like had a passing glance at the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I think they sort of skimmed off the edge, and they just kind of benefited from from their close encounter of the, I don't know, pick a kind, first kind, second kind, with the Twilight Zone, and went on with their lives and hopefully led a better life before it. But man, that Lefty certainly could have come back and said, "How did you know about the bus ticket? I want more. Give me more. Give me more. Give me more." And the lady with the matches should have been like, she could have been like, "How did you know I needed that cleaning solution? Give me more. Give me more. Give me more." But they didn't. They just kind of took what they needed and took advantage of it in a good way and moved on with their lives. But Fred couldn't leave well enough alone, man.
Yeah. My second question, I think we've basically already answered it, and honestly, Rod Serling pretty much did in his intro. But do these people deserve their trips into the Twilight Zone? With Fred, it's of his own making, so I guess yes.
Yeah. So I think the most the person we know the least about, I'd say, is the woman who asked for the matches and got the cleaning solution. Not a lot of backstory on her other than I think she thought she needed matches. We got a little more backstory on Lefty, that he was a quite talented baseball player and that he, got injured and, was coming into the bar every night. I think I said trying to find his self, trying to find his redemption in the bottom of a bottle. And then I think, I don't know about the most backstory, but definitely the most exposure we had was to Mr. Fred Renard. But it was not I honestly think that probably the most deserving of the trip, I would almost have to say Lefty.
Yeah.
He got a bad break, he was injured. Probably would have been better if he was not in the bar every night, although I can understand going to a bar every night. Not that you condone going to a bar every night on your show, I'm sure, but I can definitely understand that after a disappointment. So I think he was maybe deserving of a second chance, and he got it.
Right. The old man, he of course had a bit of a I mean, he was not in the best of moods by the end of this episode, I imagine, having not killed a man, but being, somewhat responsible for what happened. So, maybe he's least deserving of what's happening here.
Yes. Yeah. I think he did find himself in an unfortunate situation where he almost had to use a self-defense clause to get out of it, sadly.
Yeah. Now, my last question, I used to write record reviews for psychedelic albums, and I would put them on the tripometer. Actually, we connected through Discord, where I come to use from my old pen name for writing psychedelic record reviews, but which is Dr. Schluss. That's where that comes from. But
I had wondered about that.
Yeah. Well, Matt Kama just doesn't sound like a good name if you want to read some psychedelic record reviews. So, but one of the ways I would rate the albums was the tripometer, and that's what I now apply to the Twilight Zone. I'm making it a 0 to 5 scale, 5 being the trippiest, decimal points and fake numbers being fine.
Okay. So a number like 2 point pi would be okay.
Yes.
I think I think I'm probably right around I would say a 2. I don't think it's a terribly trippy episode. I think it's an episode that just shows that some people will take a little bit of good luck, a little bit of compassion, and a little bit of help from a stranger and use that to maybe make their day a little bit better. Use that maybe to make their life a little bit better. Somebody else will take a little bit of help, a little bit of grace, a little bit of good fortune that they come across from a stranger and get greedy about it and go back for more and create more problems than they had to begin with. So I think it's a pretty good allegory for, like all of these shows are, it's just pointing a mirror at our own life. But I think that a situation could arise on a not super high trippy scale, where you would see a situation very similar to this play out in the real world.
Yeah, I do pay a lot of attention to weird synchronicities. Not in a, I'm trying to like go nuts sort of way, just like be observational. So I actually was thinking 2.3 myself, so I'm going to steal your 2 pi because that's so close.
That's really kind of right where I was going when I said that. I was like, it's somewhere about a 2.5, but when you said the things 2.3, that's a good number. So right around a 2.314. We'll be on the show for a long time if I try to finish that number, so I'll just keep it right there.
Right. Well, we did the Twilight Zone movie in my movie podcast, and I actually asked my co-host for the numbers there. So, when we did like Nightmare at 20,000 feet, it's like, well, it's 20,000. That's got to be the rating.
It's got to be.
Yeah, no way out of that. So, but yeah, it's been groovy chatting about this one. I before about 2 months ago, I had only seen one episode of the Orville. Now I've seen 8 of them, and that's because of what you've been up to. Can you tell folks about that and where to find it?
Oh, that's great. Yeah, thank you so much. So Roddenberry Entertainment, almost 10 years ago, started a podcast called Mission Log. And Gene Roddenberry and Majel Roddenberry's son started this essentially because they wanted to document the legacy of his parents. So people say Star Trek matters and that it means a lot to them, but they wanted to kind of dig into it and see why that is. What are the messages, the morals, the meanings? Do the episodes stand to the test of time? And they've gone from, the first pilot episode, The Cage in 1965, all the way up through. They're just finishing up Deep Space Nine now. They've got about 450 episodes in the mission log at this point, and they're going to go through Voyager, Enterprise, and just theoretically keep going for as long as there are new shows coming out. Well, Rod wanted to expand that, use the same format to expand that to different shows and see if that Star Trek Roddenberry philosophy has made it out into other TV shows, other forms of entertainment. And the first one that they wanted to look at was the Orville, Seth MacFarlane's science fiction, satire, comedy / sci-fi show. And so we took a look at that, and we follow that same format where we just recap the episode, make some observations, talk about the bigger ideas, try to suss out some messages, morals, meanings, and see if the show aligns with the Star Trek Roddenberry philosophy of things like diversity, inclusion, optimism, humanism. Does the show sort of give you something to aspire to be a better human going forward? So that's kind of how we break the show down. It's available at podcasts.roddenberry.com. I think it's on most of the podcatchers at this point. And we're just finishing up season 1 right now. We'll do season 2, and then we're hoping to get caught up. I should not say hope. We will get caught up in time for season 3 to launch on March 10th, 2022. One way or another, Matt, this ship will leave on time, and we will be ready to go March 10th for that. So Mission Log, the Orville.
But yes, I hope it is a compliment that I have been watching the Orville because of your podcast. So,
well, I hope you're enjoying it. And man, any feedback I've done, I got my start with Trek FM, doing a couple of shows there, and a couple of guest appearances on Galaxy Class and All Good Things on UFP, the United Federation of Podcasts, as well as some other non-genre related podcasts that I've been involved with also. So it's been a great ride, and the fact that I've got a great partner in Jessica Lynn Verdi, and we have a lot of fun doing the show. It's been very cathartic. It's been very therapeutic for me as well. And at a time where, honestly, that's sort of what I was thinking when I was watching this episode, was that, somehow the universe gives you what you need. And right now, at this point in my life, and crazy times with COVID and other things happening, this thing sort of came out of nowhere. But you know what, Matt? It's exactly what I need right now, and it's helped me a lot.
There we go. I was hoping we get some real life synchronicities going along with this episode.
It definitely is.
I will say the first Orville I saw was a few years ago. I watched Majority Rule, which I liked. But just to respond to your episode, yeah, like I think the statue grinding kept, not that I was offended, I was just like, this is kind of stupid, and I didn't really watch any other episodes until recently.
It's funny how something will turn you off to a show, especially early on in the run. It's kind of like I remember, when Next Gen came out, episode number 2 was just sort of almost like a line for line remake of an original series episode, and I just thought, if they're just going to rehash old TOS episodes, I'm not even going to bother with this Next Gen stuff. And I think it was probably season 3 before I went back and looked at it again. So I can definitely see how something like that would turn you off. They do. It seems like sometimes, honestly, the humor may get in the way of the show. And the point of that show, obviously, was, majority rule and court of public opinion, and, how much harm can social media do. There are a lot of really good, I think, concepts in the show. And it just sort of had that little justification to get John into the legal system, which I was almost screaming at the TV at that point, because 1, they're supposed to be making a low profile. 2, his commanding officer is telling him to get down and he's not. And I was just like, oh my God, get down from there.
And I do like that episode, but a few years ago, I just I didn't know what they were going for, what tone at all. And that episode is especially kind of, I think, whack in that aspect.
Yeah. And it seems like, when Roddenberry created Star Trek, he sold it as Wagon Train to the Stars, because he had experience as a Western writer, right? I think he did Have Gun Will Travel and The Rifleman and some other scripts there. So he took what he knew, which was sort of TV, action, adventure, Westerns, and combined that with science fiction. And then you've got somebody like Mike McMahon with Lower Decks, who took his forte of adult animation with Rick and Morty and combined that with sci-fi. And now you've got Seth MacFarlane, who's just, I think he's just a brilliant satirist. And he combines that, kind of satirical humor with sci-fi to look at, current day issues from a global perspective. And I think he does a really good job. When I'm breaking that show down, I mean, I can find so many different threads to tug on, and they'll just go a mile long. And it just honestly becomes an exercise in what do we have time to talk about on this show.
Yeah, really. But yeah, definitely. Now that we've gotten into it for 5 minutes, people should definitely go and listen to a bit of your podcast.
Yeah, please do. And we're on Twitter at ML_the Orville. And you can find us on Facebook at Mission Log Pod.
As for this one, it's Time Enough Podcast. It is Time Enough Pod on Twitter, Time Enough Podcast on Facebook. Hopefully on all the podcatchers by the time you are hearing this. Well, if you're hearing it, you probably know how to find it anyway. But on Patreon, we're under the umbrella of Podcastius, where I also talk about sci-fi films, and Matt and Luke's Sci-Fi Sanctuary, and caught in educational films on oral hygiene. There's also some podcasts there that cover Pokemon and Monster Hunter if you're into that kind of thing. So come and check us out. Throw us a dime. We'll give you episodes early and keep our lights halfway on, maybe. Okay. Well, Mike, it's been a blast talking to you today about this one. So hopefully it's what you needed.
Thank you, Matt. It was exactly what I needed.